So this is the 0640 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting on the internet under the BabyAngelGeronimo editions banner. This is Sunday, the 7th of May 2023. So we are going to continue the essay. And the essay, of course, includes updated comments on the Moldova president, Maia Sandhu, who is featured in the weekend Financial Times. Lunch with the FT, Maia Sandhu. Moldova's president is facing her greatest test yet, wresting her country from Russia's influence over roast rabbit and a local Kubi Blanc in Krokmaz. She tells Alec Russell about cleaning up corruption, the dream of the EU membership, and why politics hasn't made her rich. I'll read that again. The pronunciation of the two words is, of course, subject to checking because I don't speak either Moldovan or Romanian. So, Kubi Blanc, assuming this is a Moldovan or Romanian phrase, in Krokmaz, supposed to be a location. She tells Alec Russell about cleaning up corruption, not the corruption, cleaning up corruption, the dream of EU membership, and why politics hasn't made her rich. That's a very loaded last part of that paragraph. And despite the fact that it's loaded, it is absolutely critical because the assumption there is that politicians who get into positions of power in political office get rich directly as a result of being in politics. And this, I think, applies most acutely. It applies to the case of Boris Johnson, David Cameron, and others in the United Kingdom. And of course, the aspect of corruption that the Financial Times, if the Financial Times introduction refers to, is most evident in the behavior of Donald Trump and, of course, the behavior of all the political parties, organizations, and regimes across the West. And it gets exacerbated, gets worse in countries in Africa and Asia. Now, this contrast this week's news items that we have been noticing. During the court case that was brought against Robert Mugabe's daughter in defamation in Zimbabwe, which used to be Rhodesia, information came out that this particular daughter of Robert Mugabe's owns properties worth about $1 billion. She's not even in her 40s, she's in her 30s, I think. And she's not in any state high office of the state. So, how did she come to own such property, such wealth, especially in Zimbabwe, which is a very, in terms of individual Zimbabweans' experience, in terms of the individual Zimbabweans' experience, a very poor country. Not only in terms of economic poverty, in social poverty, in democratic poverty. Zimbabwe ranks at the very bottom. And looking back at the coverage, the impassioned, almost blind promotion of Robert Mugabe by the BBC, especially on the BBC Newsnight during the 1970s, when Mugabe was fighting, he was more fighting his political rival than the apartheid racist regime. And he was promoted on two levels. One was that he was intellectually of high intellectual abilities, and that he was morally beyond reproach. Now, anyone who turns out in power doing the things that Mugabe did must be immediately re-evaluated based on the evidence of their behavior. And any objective re-evaluation of Robert Mugabe must lead to one conclusion, and one conclusion only: that he was not intellectually of high intellectual ability, let's say, and he was a moral bankrupt. So the question is, how are countries like the former Rhodesia becoming Zimbabwe serving as examples of, quote, freedom from colonialism, imperialism, racist colonialism, racist imperialism? How are they serving that? 43 years ago, I remember in London's Waterloo, near the Waterloo transport station in London, London Southeast 1, not far from the then HQ of the Greater London Council in London Southeast 1. I remember observing a rally held in the rink, not far from Waterloo, as I said. And one of the people who spoke at the rally was the Pakistani born propagandist against Islam and Muslims, Tariq Ali. Now they were praising the Zimbabwean African national movement without any condition. When I observed the various mutterings developing in the 1960s in then East Pakistan, that was around autonomy. It wasn't about independence for then East Pakistan. It was about autonomy, provincial autonomy, so that the province of East Pakistan, as it then was in the 1960s, could be governed autonomously without fetters imposed from the Western Pakistanis. When I observed the conversations and mutterings, I was, as I always am, led to examine the evidence. And the evidence I was not looking in the behavior of the West Pakistanis. I was looking for the evidence in the behavior of the then East Pakistanis. And my empirical observations, without any variation, led to the conclusion that if the people clamoring for provincial autonomy were theoretically put in positions of power as, say, constituting the provincial autonomous East Pakistan administration, they would not deliver. They would not be able to deliver, and they could not deliver. Why? Because they lacked the character, they lacked the ethics, they lacked the morality. And I can extrapolate that observation to the rest of the world. That is, either at present in 2023, clamoring for independence from colonialism, or has been going through any stage of post colonial existence over the last 60 years, 70 years. And I can include all the countries in Africa, and I can include all the countries in Asia, and all the countries in Latin America, Southern America. And I can say that any slogan, any time, for independence from colonialism is far easier than the actual implementation of the contents of the slogan. For example, as I have been saying regularly, the slogan that the Pakistan opposition movement, Tehreek-e-Insaf, now led by former Prime Minister Imran Khan, if we take the slogan, Hakiki Azadi, genuine independence, true independence, that is dating back to August 1947 and referring to the British in the subcontinent. How is Imran Khan or the Hakiki Azadi movement supporters in the Tehreek-e-Insaf, how are they going to deliver? Or do they actually care about delivering? The evidence is that the answer is uncertain. Take the example of Bangladesh. In the case of September 2021, gang rape of a 25-year-old woman by a gang who are known members of the political gangsters outfit called the Awami League, fronted by Sheikh Hasina. These gangsters gang rapists who almost murdered her in the process of gang raping this woman. These will never be really tried and never be punished. Now, if the gang rape took place during the period when Bangladesh was East Pakistan, what would happen if these gang rapists were reported or alleged to be from the Pakistani, that is West Pakistani demography? It is without doubt that there would be such massive bloodshed that cannot be described in words. That is the depth of hatred. That is the depth of hatred that was reserved against anyone allegedly from Pakistan, West Pakistan. You reverse that, and what Sheikh Hasina's Awami League members are doing in independent Bangladesh are committing gang rapes, individual rapes, and they are being treated with total impunity. They're not being held to account, they're not being charged, they're not really being charged. They're charged on paper, but they're not being held to account, they're not being tried. So, where do the victims of gang rape or individual rapes, where do they seek justice in Bangladesh? And extrapolate that and apply this over in India, where the case of the Sheikh Hasina Awami League can be transferred to the Hindus, let's say. Any gang of Hindus targeting a Muslim girl or a Muslim woman, gang raping her, torturing her, and in many, many cases, murdering her. No justice. Or take it back to 21 years ago to 2002, when Narendra Modi was the local chief minister in Gujarat province, and Muslims were set alight, burned to death by Hindu gangs. And Narendra Modi encouraged the police not to interfere, not to stop the massacres and the burning that was taking place. And in the last month or so, all the remaining so called accused, 21 years, how long does it take? All the remaining so called accused have been exonerated by the Indian court system. That is the case. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of murders, rapes, gang rapes taking place in India against Muslim women, Muslim girls, and against the so called lower caste Hindus. No justice. So when the British the commentator called Saeed, who writes a column in the Sunday Times, and in connection with which platform he is given extra platform on BBC News channel to review so-called do the review in the newspapers. Matthew Saeed claims to be the son of a Pakistani father. He doesn't go into details about his non-Pakistani white mother, but that is all he describes is his father, and he doesn't show truthful moral recognition of his father. I mean, based on his immorality, he should not use his father's name, which is Saeed. But who is going to hold him to account in the British media? Nobody. There is this Indian counterpart to Matthew Saeed who appears on the BBC News channel, Papers Review so called. A man called Bose. Now, Bose used to be in the 1970s attached with the Daily Telegraph. Now, they have not maintained the contents online, but he wrote about a dozen or so pieces in the Telegraph attacking. He didn't attack the Pakistanis, he didn't attack the Bangladeshis, but he attacked the Silotis. Why did he do that? Because his job or contract with the Daily Telegraph was nothing to do with the people of Sylhet or Bangladesh or even the subcontinent. It is about sports. So, who got him to even start to write about Sylhet and against the Silotis in the United Kingdom? There was a similar piece by a very dark skinned African in the Telegraph in the 1980s, I think. And it was full of absolute venom against the Silotis in East London, Tower Hamlets. That extremely dark skin, it really is remarkable. And I'm saying this for a reason. I'll come to that reason in the next paragraph. There was absolutely no rhyme or reason for a totally unconnected, biologically unconnected, ethnically unconnected, religiously unconnected, very dark skinned individual writing in the Telegraph, attacking the Silotis in Brick Lane and East London. There was no reason, there was no logical reason. I looked for it and I couldn't find it. There was a piece in the Evening Standard in 2006 given a byline to an alleged Siloti origin, within quotes, Imam, who appeared on dozens of times on these channel slaves, Channel S. And this individual, claiming to be a Siloti, attacked the Silotis and Bangladeshis in the United Kingdom in the Evening Standard. So anyone watching this must understand that this is a world exclusive, original broadcast, originally researched, originally fact checked, and originally fact verified. Of course, it is covered by the copyrights and intellectual property rights. In addition to all of that, there is no other broadcaster anywhere, anywhere on the planet Earth today, or has been in the last decade since broadcasting came into vogue, who can give you that kind of extensive, consistent, evidential picture of what is going on, how wrong, how totally wrong generally the media is, and how particularly vicious the agenda has been against the Bangladeshis from Silot in the United Kingdom. Why are the Bangladeshis from Silot keep being attacked like this? In the 1980s, there was a man called, a strange name. He said that he was from Pakistan, a Pakistani background. And his name was Frank Bhatti. Now, this individual also wrote a piece, a pamphlet, attacking the Silotis. Attacking the Silotis, not introducing the Silotis. So you look at that list, and it goes back to Leslie Garner, whose piece in the Sunday Times magazine, dated Sunday the 2nd of December, 1973, was, in terms of the length, the longest published article against the Silotis in Brick Lane. Now let's see if I can read some paragraph. It is from the word go, it is negative, hostile, unsympathetic, prejudiced, racist, and untrue and untruthful. So this one is on page 42 of the magazine. At the top of the page 42 piece part, a custom that has the absolute acceptance of young Asians, although the system can result in distressing situations. We met one young girl married to a man of 64, sold, the word is not too strong, by her impoverished parents in exchange for his financial support. He said he would like to have 8 children by her. In order to ensure her family's survival, she lives with him in a ground floor flat, vulnerable to every passing thug. The windows are constantly broken by missiles, the walls peeling, pipes leaking. As we left, she said shyly that I might think it's strange to see a young girl married to an old man, but in her country it was not uncommon. She admitted when she first saw him, she was distressed, But now she was used to it. The enemy of arranged marriages is likely to be not this kind of tragedy, but the increased awareness and independence of young Asian girls. Bengali girls are not yet in this position, but two very lively Pakistani sisters found that comparative freedom had begun to spoil them. I honestly wouldn't mind such a marriage, though you always hope for falling in love. What I want is to know the man. I've got to fancy him. Arranged marriages do work out. You begin to love them afterwards. Most girls don't go out with boys, and there is no comparing. So you adjust easily. Now I know what I want. I cannot marry just any person. You become too critical. And if I hadn't met boys here, I wouldn't have thought that. These girls would certainly reject the idea of sharing their husbands with a second wife. But the tradition has not entirely died. It is not uncommon for a Bengali in London to have two wives, one English wife in London and a Bengali wife in Bangladesh. On rare occasions, the two are brought together with unpredictable results. Once the English wife took umbrage and left, but another time the two stayed together, living side by side with the husband, and the English wife has helped the Bengali wife to go on the pill. The position of wives is unlikely to alter drastically, while the young men still have the same attitude as their elders, etc., etc. Now, this is the this is the Tana. She is examining, allegedly, she is examining the internal characteristics, traits, and facets and features of what she obviously thinks is a rotten culture of the Bangladeshis. But she's not actually talking about Bangladeshis really, because although she confuses and uses the term Bengali and Bangladeshis, the main focus is firmly in the article against the Silotis. That's what she is describing. Now, that was published in December 1973 when Anwar Ditta was aged 20 years and was living in Pakistan. Anwar Ditta, full name Anwar Sultana Ditta, was born in March 1953 at a location in Birmingham, England. And by that birth, she became automatically a British citizen by birth. Now, Anwar Ditta has sadly passed away aged 68 during 2021. I only found out earlier, a few days ago. Now, I met Anwar Ditta twice in the course of her campaign, and I'll come to describe the campaign where I met her. Anwar Ditta was in the 1980s, so she was born in 53. So 63 she would be 10, 73 she would be 20, 83 she would be 30. So she was in her late 20s or early 30s when I met her, when she was touring the country, and she was in London on both occasions, and she was addressing the meetings held in support of her. What the meetings were supporting Anwar Sultana Ditta about was her application that the British Home Office should accept as her children three of her children that had been born while she was in Pakistan. The Home Office persisted in refusing that application and making any number of defamatory, racistly prejudiced, untrue, untruthful assertions to the effect that Anwar Ditta was lying, that her husband Shujauddin, whom she married in Pakistan and with whom she had all these three children that were still detained, were prevented from returning or joining the parents in Pakistan in the United Kingdom, and they were being looked after by their Anwar Ditta's mother and Anwar Ditta's cousin, sister, etc., etc. In Jilam, in Karachi, in Lahore. Now, the reason I am talking about Anwar Ditta is because after all these decades since I met her, I was wondering what had happened to her, whether she had succeeded in her campaign. Because after meeting her, I didn't actually keep in touch with the events surrounding her campaign. So I could not remember whether she had succeeded and whether the Home Office had accepted her evidence. Now, in the rare program that Granada Television, which is no longer publishing the World in Action slot, in the program that they actually did about Anwar Ditta and her children, they had one participant, a former UK Home Office Minister, Alex Lyon. Alex Lyon was later married to who became a Labour Member of Parliament, Claire Short. But this was happening in the 1980s, and Claire Short was not featured in the program, but Alex Lyon was, because of the direct knowledge of the Home Office's thinking that he was thought to have, and he correctly demonstrated in his short comments broadcast on the program that he did have very deep knowledge about the workings of the Home Office. And he said that the Home Office was denying Anwar Ditta's application because she was black. Now, of course, looking at Anwar Ditta pigmentationally and in terms of skin color, it would be very hard to look at her and call her black. She's fair-skinned woman. Many Pakistani, majority of Pakistani women are fair-skinned, but Anwar Ditta, born in Birmingham, was a fair-skinned woman, and she can be described as being reasonably good-looking. So the word black used by Alex Lyon in the World in Action program about Anwar Ditta was not an ethnic word. It was not a racial word. It was a word that Alex Lyon used as a generic description of the groups of people from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, African countries that were targeted for discrimination, to be discriminated against. And collectively, the discrimination was based on their being from non European, African, and Asian backgrounds. That is what Alex Lyon meant, and that is what actually happens. When Leslie Garner in the Sunday Times magazine article on the 2nd of December 1973 talked so matronizingly, anthropologically about the Siloti people, she obviously assumed that anyone reading that article would be as prejudiced, as ignorant about the operation and the behavior of officials in the UK Home Office, Interior Department. The example, the evidence of Anwar Ditta's 6-year battle, I think, in my view, retrospectively, because as I said, I last had any direct contact with Anwar Ditta was in the course of the meetings that I attended either early 1980s or late 1970s. And if I had contacted her before she passed away, I would have wanted her to update me on everything that happened since those meetings, and I would have written an essay length or longer piece about her. In addition to that, I think Anwar Ditta can be correctly on the facts be described objectively, independently, as an international or internationally recognizable campaigner for human rights of the order, of the strength, of the purity, and of the determination that she showed in confronting the UK state and the individuals, more importantly, the individuals who work under the cover of the positions that they occupy in the state. And what they do then, under abusing that cover, they carry out crimes against humanity. Any victim of Mao Zedong's genocide of the Chinese people, any victim of the genocide of the Muslims by the Burmese, any victim of the apartheid massacres of the African origin people in South Africa, in apartheid Africa, any of the people that Winston Churchill caused to be genocided in Bengal in 1943 by diverting vital resources away from Bengal and into the cause of the British Empire. All these people would be equally entitled to claim the same basic list of justice against their perpetrators, against their violators, against their genocides, attackers. There is no difference. But the expulsion from the Labour Party in the United Kingdom by the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, of the Labour Party MP, Diane Abbott. The expulsion of Diane Abbott raises questions about the term anti-Semitism. And we shall be, of course, examining evidential essay-length content to diagnosing what anti-Semitism means and what anti-Semitism is being used to achieve. On the evidence, anti-Semitism has been used against people on the alleged alleged basis that the people against whom the anti Semitism charge is being labeled and who are being punished for allegedly doing what they've been alleged to do are not either against Jewish people or against the rights of the Jewish people currently or in the past. But they are being targeted, these people who are supposedly offenders allegedly committing anti Semitic wrongs. These people are being targeted because they're politically hostile to the political agenda being pursued by Keir Starmer in the Labour Party in the case of Diana Abbott and others. For example, one person who was expelled from the Labour Party, Mark Wordsworth. Mark Wordsworth was accused of having attacked a then Labour Party MP in an anti Semitic utterance or statement. Mark Wordsworth did not do so, but he was accused of having done so. And after being accused of having done so, Mark Wordsworth was suspended or expelled from the Labour Party solely on the allegation that he had targeted a Jewish Labour Party MP with an anti Semitic utterance. Now, there is no way that any comparison can be made between the treatment by the Home Office of Anwar Ditta, her relations, her family, her entire kind of country, culture, with any similar treatment by the British Home Office or any part of the UK state of one single Jewish person in the last 76 years, 80 years. Not one. In fact, the propaganda campaign that was launched by the Daily Mail against Ed Miliband, claiming that his father, his late father, Ralph Miliband, had been anti British. This propaganda against Ed Miliband was manufactured by the Daily Mail, not because the Daily Mail wanted to secure justice for any victims of any anti Jewish behavior by Ralph Miliband. Ralph Miliband is Jewish, was Jewish. So, what they did was they targeted him and characterized him as being anti British, which Ralph Miliband never was. Ralph Miliband was an active socialist thinker, a democratic thinker, probably one of the best current observers of the United Kingdom society over the last 100 years. And yet, he was being targeted as being anti British. Now, Diane Abbott hasn't done anything like that, anything like what the Daily Mail did to Ralph Miliband. Diane Abbott didn't name anyone. And in her linguistic note, she couldn't have named anyone because it was a generic theoretical statement. And yet, immediately, Diane Abbott was treated as if she had named somebody, as if she had denied something, as if she had been in denial of Holocaust. She had not done any of those things. So that shows that the Labour Party that Keir Starmer has been politically murdering and has already mostly murdered is being used as a tool to destroy democracy and destroy evidence in support of democracy. Today's Sunday Times has got two items about the Diane Abbott alleged anti-Semitism and about Harry Windsor allegedly being anti the royal family. Both of those articles in the Sunday Times are byline to a woman called Camilla Long. Now, Camilla Long, I think I have said this in the past, Camilla Long, on the evidence of her published comments and contents, fancies herself as a better bride than most of the brides that have been connected or coupled with any member of the royal family. She fancies herself as a better, a more suitable royal bride, most certainly more suitable than Meghan Markle. Because Camilla Long keeps writing against Harry. We shall come to her piece in today's Sunday Times in a minute. But let's look at the one that she has written on page 20. Page 25 of today's Sunday Times under the comment banner. And the heading says, the left sees unconscious bias everywhere. To blatant anti-Semitism. Now, for a linguistic comment, nothing that Diane Abbott said in her alleged draft version of the letter to the Observer last Sunday was about attacking the Jewish people, let alone being blatant about attacking Jewish people. Now, this picture of Diane Abbott that the Camilla Long piece is published with is captioned, Diane Abbott and Jeremy Corbyn have both drawn opprobrium for failing to spot the problem with their words or actions. Now, the heading again, the left sees unconscious bias everywhere. Now, let's go back to the left. I have been active in Britain, in the United Kingdom, for more than 50 years, non-stop. And in those 50 plus years, I have encountered, come across individuals on all kinds of platforms who could be counted as being of political opinion that could place them as being a left of center activist or thinker. But I have not found one address in any street, one address online, one publication anywhere that can be called the left. Because there is no such place called the left, and there are no publications called the left. Various people publish various items, outlets, and various addresses have people operating various activities. But to call, generally say the word the left, the phrase, is factually a fantasy, untruth. So, what Camilla Long is calling left is a fantasy, is non existent. So, she's fantasizing, making up something that doesn't exist. So, if anyone is blind to the evidence, it is her. So, why is Camilla Long, who is blind to the evidence, to the reality, being given such wide space in the Sunday Times? And there are two others. Well, there are two others on the pages under comment as well. One is Dominic Lai's son, the son of Nigel Lai's son, and the other is Hedley Freeman, who has most recently defected from The Guardian, and this criminal called Matu Said. Searching for Camilla Long's attack on Harry Windsor. And there is, of course, Rod Liddle, the stinking Rod Liddle. Now, Camilla Long has got a piece against Harry Windsor on page 13. And it's headed Medieval News Script Told by Vickers. And she's saying TB anchors grappled with the bracelets of sincerity. When the camera zoomed in on two slightly unsure septuagenarians. This is about the television coverage yesterday of King Brian's thing called coronation. Now, So this one on page 13 is not about Harry as much as it is about the various fronters on television clips making comments about the coronation. I'm looking for the one that Camilla Long has actually published against Harry. That is what I'm looking for, because what she has said in the one that I'm looking for is that while Harry was on the parade, the coronation parade, he was listening to Meghan Markle in California on the earpiece. That was completely obscene. Because it wasn't Harry or Meghan's event. It was an event for the so-called king. So why was Camilla Long obsessed with what Harry was doing with his wife in California, back in California? I will leave that particular item on one side because let's see if I can do a final check to see. And the mental slave criminal, Matthew Saeed, is oozing with mental slavery and criminality. Yes, Camilla Long has, I found this one is on page 6. So she has got as many as three lengthy platforms, pieces in the Sunday Times, in the one edition of the Sunday Times today alone. And here she is deriding, condemning Harry. I like to think Meghan was talking into his earpiece. That is the caption to a picture of Harry Windsor. And it is about Harry Windsor's day. There is a big picture of Harry. It is designed, this picture is being designed to show Harry as an isolated figure, quite physically as an isolated figure. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 columns in one piece byline to Camilla Long. And I'm not going to read the whole thing except to say the elegant option might have been to stay away. Now she has got all the wisdom and advice for Harry. As long as Harry doesn't attend, doesn't show up, doesn't come. The prince looked tired and miserable, and then scarpered to the American court. Now, he cannot win it, can he? If he didn't come, she would have devoted an obituary to him. And she says about Harry that he arrived in the car of shame. And she says, almost naked, wearing a suit and be almost naked. How did she know that? So that is the nakedness of the stupidity on the British press. And the British press, I mean, Sunday Times is one of the still leading titles. So, compared to Camilla Long, you contrast the widow of Harry Evans. The widow of Harry Evans, Tina Brown. Let's see. Let's find the piece that she has been reported in. Now, Tina Brown, this is dated, the date line is the 4th of May in the UK Press Gazette, as it used to be. It's published under the website called pressgazette.co.uk, and it's a byline to Dominic Ponsford. And the heading is Tina Brown, Prince Harry's jihad against the tabloids is justified. Palace Papers author Tina Brown has written the Palace Papers. So the Palace Papers author says she admires Harry's pursuit of multiple hacking claims. Now, this is written by Dominic Ponsford, who used to be editor of the Press Gazette, who is now not editor but overall editor, I suppose. So, Dominic Ponsford is the editor in chief of Press Gazette and has more than 20 years' experience in journalism. Former